Good morning, you two. This is your new favorite Steelers family. I am Duck, and to my right, I know you can't see him, but we have
Juice.
We are a family of Steelers fans who are going to come to you weekly, talk about Steelers news, updates, games, predictions, and all that.
Yep. So today we're just going to talk about week 1, analyze week 1 and predict week 2, right?
Exactly. So week 1, we had Daniel Jones with 26 completions out of 41 attempts with 279 passing yards. He had 2 TDs, which I thought was going to be less, seeing our defense was very strong last year.
And, obviously we're starting off with Pittsburgh and Giants. So I'm moving down to rushing for Giants. Daniel Jones had 4 carries for 22 yards, actually, with an average of 5.5, which you said is a surprise because of how good our defense was last year.
So what you're trying to tell me is Daniel Jones had more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley?
Yes, that is correct. Saquon Barkley had 15 carrying attempts and only had 6 yards, with an average of 0.4 yards per game.
Now, I don't know if you guys watched the game or not, but he kept getting hit in the backfield. He could not get any yards. It was insane to watch.
The receptions was Darian Slayton with 6 receptions for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Now, he went off. I think him and Daniel Jones will be a good connection in the future, just not against us.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to Pittsburgh, right? Ben had 21 completions and 32 attempts, so that's not too bad, thinking like he's coming back from an injury. He had 229 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Ben's performance. I was a little worried start of the game, but it's Big Ben. He starts off slow, plus he came off the injury, so no interceptions. That's a stat that really stood out to me.
Benny Snell actually had the most rushing yards with 19 carries and 113 yards with an average of 5.9 yards per game. He had 0 touchdowns, but still, he's looking a little better than Con.
Now, going to the receivers, I got to bring up Juju. I think he had a good game. I mean, I still don't know if he's going to be the number 1, but he had 6 receptions, 69 yards, and 2 TDs. Now, he did his thing. He was a solid outlet for Ben Roethlisberger.
And next up, we have Claypool with 2 receptions for 39 yards and 0 touchdowns. But did you see that catch he had along the sideline? That was like an amazing catch.
Yeah. Can we talk about toe drag swag? Coming up to James Washington. He had 2 receptions for 34 yards and 1 TD. I know the numbers don't seem that important, but the touchdown, that's what I want to focus on. He fought for that touchdown. I thought that play was going to be over, but the way that he fought and pumped his legs, it was impressive.
Most people would have been down right there. That was really impressive.
So now that week 1 is in the books and we start off with a win, we got to talk about our next opponents, the Denver Broncos. They're coming into Heinz Field this Sunday at 1 o'clock. Now, Denver's last game was okay. It wasn't too impressive. Drew Lock, the new quarterback, had 22 completions out of 33 attempts. He ended up with 216 yards and 1 touchdown.
And for the rushing, Melvin Gordon III had 15 carries for 78 yards and 5.2 on the average and the second touchdown. And Philip Lindsay had 7 carries for 24 yards with an average of 3.4. 0 touchdowns though.
Now, when it comes to Philip Lindsay, I read that he might be out, along with Boye, the cornerback, and of course Von Miller suffered that freak injury in practice. So their loss is our gain because those are key opponents for their team.
The receiving now, Fant had 5 receptions for 81 yards and 1 touchdown.
How did the rookie Jerry Jeudy look?
He looked actually pretty good. He had 4 receptions for 56 yards, 0 touchdowns though.
Now, Denver's defense gave up 249 yards in the air and 2 touchdowns. So I'm hoping that Big Ben has another game under his belt, that he may feel confident and he may throw for over 300 yards.
And now let's talk about the rushing game. Derrick Henry had 116 rushing yards, and he had 31 carries. So I want to see how Benny Snell does against the run game in Denver.
You're absolutely right. I think Benny Snell may go off, but Mike Tomlin said that James Conner may be able to play this game. Now, do you think it's a smart thing for James Conner to rest up, or do you want to see him play?
I mean, when we played the Giants, he didn't look too hot. So I want to see him rest up and play week 3, or maybe in week 4.
So, here comes the predictions. I think Ben is going to hit over 300 passing yards. I'm going to say 323 passing yards, 2 TDs, and I think this Denver's defense is going to pick him off one time. What do you think about Ben?
I think Ben's actually going to go off in this game because, he had jitters coming into week 1. So now that he got hit and knows what football is, like he's been hit again, like I said, he knows what to expect. So now he's going to go off. That's what I think.
So what numbers are you giving him?
I'm not going to give him 300 yards. I'm going to give him close. I'm going to give him 287.
How many touchdowns?
I'm going to give him 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns?
3 touchdowns. And one of them were at the 5-yard line and he sneaks in.
Oh, so you're giving him 2 passing and 1 rushing?
Exactly.
Now, when it comes to the receivers, I think Juju is going to have another good game. I don't see him having 2 touchdowns again. I think just one of the Ben's touchdowns, maybe around 73 yards. But I feel like this is going to be Claypool's game. Hopefully, they realize what they have in him, and they exploit this Denver's defense, which is already weakened.
I think Claypool is going to go off as well. I think he's going to be the second touchdown from Ben. He's going to have, you ready for this? 96 yards.
96 yards?
96 yards, yeah. As you said, they're going to realize what they have to work with. And what they have to work with is a monster of a receiver.
Now, when it comes to rushing, I'm torn. I don't know if James is going to be back, but I'm going to count it as if he's not. So I think that Benny Snell, he's not going to top 100 yards. He is a different kind of runner than Derrick Henry, and I think he's going to do high 80s. I'll give it 87 yards.
Yeah, I think that Benny Snell's going to be the lead wrestler as well. I don't think, as you said, he's not the kind of like Derrick Henry that just mows people over. I'm going to give him high 70s. I'm going to give him 78 yards.
Now, when it comes to defense, I feel like we are going to end up with 1 pick, and that pick coming from the secondary. This last game, we had 2 interceptions, both from the front 7, but I think it's the secondary's time to shine.
Exactly. I think it's actually going to be 2 picks, one from Minka and one from Hayden.
That would be amazing, I'm not going to lie.
And I think TJ Watt's going to have a good game. He's going to have 1.5 sacks, and Bud's going to have 2 sacks.
I agree. I think TJ is going to have a good game as well. They pressured Daniel Jones very heavy. I want to say that Bud had 8 quarterback pressures and TJ had 7. So I could see those sack numbers. Now, for the final score, of course, I think we're going to win. But I think it's going to be 24-10.
I now think it's also going to be 24, but I'm just going to give 24-17.
So you're going to think it's going to be a closer game.
Yeah, Drew Lock is actually pretty good, but he's not that good. He's still pretty good, though.
Now, my hopes and my wishes, I hope they realize what they have in Claypool. I said that. But I also hope that this is Ebron's game. Ebron is a talented tight end. He is athletic. He needs to work on blocking, but overall, I think Ebron was an amazing pickup.
Exactly. Ebron is totally worth it. Minka was totally worth it, and He's like, Ebron is maybe like Minka on offense. He just has to work on a few things, and then he's Minka on offense.
I just want to thank you guys for listening. This is our first week. We are going to be coming back to you next week. Of course, we're going to be improving on things, working on getting a camera. But for our first week, we appreciate you listening. This is Steal the Game with Duck and
Juice. We out.
Here we go, Steelers.